Hi, I'm Bob Tabor, and this is the third course in a series of 4 courses that I've recorded for Microsoft Virtual Academy that will help you understand the fundamentals of Microsoft Azure. So the goal here is not to dive deeply into any given topic within the wide realm of Microsoft Azure, but instead to give you that foundational baseline knowledge that later on you can dive deeper into specific topics that are pertinent to you or your organization. You can achieve mastery in those given topics, perhaps even mastery towards certification if that's something that you want to pursue. But that's not our purpose here. Ours is to give that overview. So you probably, as you go along, assuming that you've watched the previous 2 courses in this series of courses, you'll see that there is some overlap. There are some topics that we've already discussed. You'll wonder, why are you showing me this again? I'll try to be brief, but we'll try to make it relevant to the topic of working with data. Now, you'll recall way back, whenever we first started this series of courses, that in the very first module I said there would be 3 different types of modules that I'd create. There would be conceptual style modules, how do I style modules, and then comparison style modules. The conceptual modules, think PowerPoint, high-level overview, 50,000-foot view, understanding the context, why does this technology exist, how does it compare with the other technologies that are available. The how do I style modules would be very hands-on. How do I accomplish a specific task related to a given technology using the portal, using Visual Studio and C#, things of that nature. And then finally the comparison style, which would compare 2 very closely, it would seem that they do 2 technologies that do the same thing. We're going to try to make those nuanced observations about where one technology can be used over another technology in a given use case, in a given scenario. And so all 3 of these types of modules will be present in this course as well. Now, before we get started, I want to take a moment to discuss why I believe that this particular course is probably the most important of all the courses in this Microsoft Fundamental series. Obviously, data is an essential component to application architecture. As developers, as IT people, we inherently know that, but businesses more and more are coming to rely on data. Somebody recently said that data is the lifeblood of a business, and there's not a single part of a business from customer acquisition all the way to fulfillment that is not touched by an increased amount of data being collected. We have not only the internet as a means of collecting data to reach a worldwide audience, but then also the rise of the Internet of Things with various sensors on whether it be machinery or it's shipping pallets of goods and services, or just goods, I guess, and collecting all that data and then making sense of it and being predictive and being prescriptive with how that will affect our business and to make us more efficient, to make our organization more profitable, hopefully. So if you've ever worked in IT, there are department-sized problems that are addressed with small database implementations. And usually it's not too bad. The data is not all that critical. If it were to get a little corrupted or it would be a little insecure, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. The challenge comes in whenever you're dealing with or you're expecting to deal with large sums of data. At that point, you have to take a lot of other things into consideration. For example, you have to find some way to configure and maintain scalable data storage that grows and grows as we continue to collect more data within the organization. And that's often difficult to do correctly. It's also difficult to configure our systems for redundancy. So if one set of databases go down, we have some redundancy, whether across town or across the world, that can pick up the slack. It's also difficult sometimes to configure security to make sure the people who need access to the data have access to the data. But fortunately, as we'll learn in this course, Azure does make some of these things a little bit easier, especially when we're talking about things that scale. There's always that trade-off, if you'll recall, between the responsibility that you have versus the configurability that you want, or the ease of use on the one hand and the configurability on the other hand. And so, again, we'll address those kind of trade-offs throughout this course. So the objective of this course is to talk about how Azure takes care of a lot of that complexity for you so that you can just focus on what really matters, which is the business application that gives value to your business users. And as I said a moment ago, there's more data being collected than ever. And so whenever you're faced with architecting for applications that will potentially retrieve lots and store lots of data, you'll have to really consider the worst case scenarios, which I guess for the business is the best case scenarios, how to handle all of the processing on that data, how to handle the data capacity. And in this course, we're going to talk about those things. We're going to talk about new ways to architect data persistence that make more sense than your traditional relational database management systems. There are new technologies in place that allow us to scale at a rate that was impossible for a tool like Microsoft SQL Server on premises to accomplish. There's an old saying that whenever you only have a hammer, everything begins to look like a nail. So there were times in the past, I can speak for myself, when I would architect solutions in a relational database management system that I was shoehorning into that because that's the only storage tool that I have. But fortunately now we have new things to learn about. NoSQL style data stores, semi-structured data, schemaless data and data structures, and how we can store those efficiently. We'll talk about why these exist and when we should use them as opposed to what we're familiar with already in relational database management systems. In fact, in the very next module in this course, we're going to talk about your data storage options. We'll take a high-level overview of all of the offerings from Microsoft Azure and what the nuanced differences are between them. We'll also be going through, as I said earlier, how do I style modules that will force us to perform tasks within each of those data storage tools from Microsoft Azure. We'll be looking at a ton of code examples, and as I started to prepare for this course, I started writing all the code myself, but I began to realize that there was just so much available code already out there that illustrates many of the ideas that we'll need to talk about. So what I would prefer to do is I'm going to show you where to find those examples, and then we'll walk through those examples line by line in some cases to better understand how to accomplish specific tasks that we'll inevitably want to perform in Microsoft Azure. So whenever I design a course, my goal is always to make difficult topics simple to understand. And I believe that the best training courses are succinct and accurate, but also approachable. So to the extent that it's possible, I try to do this. And hopefully that will come out as we work together in this course. Now, if you like how I approach technical topics like this one, please visit my own website at www.learnvisualstudio.net. All right, so let's get started in the very next module by discussing what these new data storage options are within Microsoft Azure. We'll see you there. Thank you.